Hey, what is up, guys? It's Joy Blade here. I want to welcome you to the first series on my channel. It's going to be a Dark Souls playthrough. Now, I'm going to be doing a playthrough because I know most of the areas in the game and I know where most of the items are, but there are a few areas that I have not gone to either save time or just I didn't want to deal with these areas. In this playthrough, I'm going to deal with all of them, and these are areas I have not gone to yet, so it's going to be a learning curve for me, and hopefully it'll be enjoyable and fun for you guys to see me struggle and die instantly like a maniac. Now, I ended up going with the Deprived build because of his even stat layout to begin with. He has good stats for my purposes. Now, I'm going to be skipping the cutscenes of Dark Souls just because I don't want to deal with any of the copyright issues, so I'm just going to skip them, and it's just safer for me like that. Now, as I said, I'm going with the Deprived build with class, but also I'm going with something that I don't usually go with. I'm going with the Black Firebomb gift. A gift is an item you can start off the game with. Now, hello. Now, normally I start off with the Master Key. The Master Key is just that, it's a skeleton key. Allows you to access most of the doors in Dark Souls just by having the Master Key. Now, that's my usual gift. I usually run with that. But this time I'm running with the Black Fire Bombs because I want to get a specific weapon from a specific enemy, meaning certain circumstances. Now, this enemy I'm showing right now is a Stray Demon. The Stray Demon will become a pain in my ass later on when we come back to the Asylum, if I decide to fight. He's an optional boss. Most people say he's a fun boss. He's a pain. Straight up, he's a pain. Anyways, that's my opinion, and I digress. Now, the boss I was talking about you earlier is the Asylum Demon. Don't get him confused with the Stray Demon. There are two different bosses. The Asylum Demon is a tutorial boss, and he is kind of the warden or the guard of the Asylum. Now, the way his drop rate works is that if you kill him when you first encounter him, you will have a guaranteed drop of his weapon. And his weapon is a Demon Great Hammer. It's a great strength-based weapon. Now, if you can see him when these doors open, you notice that he's on the roof of the Asylum. Now, that becomes a key factor later when I mention another character and his story. Now, like I was saying, his weapon, the Demon Great Hammer, it is a great scaling weapon for strength. It has a B scaling, and I'll get into scaling later on when I start leveling up my character, but right now just know it's a good weapon for strength based characters, and that's what the Black Firebombs help me out with. I don't really like the beginning weapon. I don't think many people do. It is a straight sword hilt, if I remember correctly, and it's shit for damage, but if you know how to roll, you know how to dodge this guy, you kill him easily with the straight sword hilt. I just opted out to go with the Black Fire Bombs. Now, the Black Fire Bombs take about maybe 5 to 6 Black Fire Bombs to kill the Asylum Demon. And as you can see, I did a mistake where I activated the bonfire, but I did not rest at the bonfire. Now, Dark Souls 2 has basically conditioned me for the Dark Souls 2 mechanics. There's a mechanic in Dark Souls 2 where you just have to activate the bonfire to make it a checkpoint. In Dark Souls 1, you have to activate the bonfire and you have to sit at the bonfire to make it a checkpoint. So I'm basically just running back to the area I was, getting ready to kill the Silent Demon. Thankfully, I have just enough firebombs to do it. I have 7, and it takes around 5 to 6. So I'm going to be good in that sense. So now you can see I sat in the bonfire. I have my checkpoint. I'm not too worried about whatever is to come. So I'm just going to play this through, and I'll show you guys what the end result is. Now, you see I recovered my souls. That's the mechanic of Dark Souls. If you die, you drop this little bloodstain that has your souls, and you're able to come back, pick them back up. And souls are both your currency and your experience, so that's kind of important to pick them back up. But if you die a second time, not picking up your souls, those souls are gone, that XP is gone, that currency is gone. So now you're basically going to see me that I basically wreck shit. The Silent Demon is not a tough enemy at all. His tails are very easy to find out. It's very easy to dodge him, especially with me having no armor. I am very light. I can do these great agility rolls, so I'm not too worried about him. The reason I messed up earlier is there is a golden rule with Dark Souls. No matter what the situation is, no matter how low health you come to, stay calm and don't panic. I don't follow that meta a lot. That gets me killed a lot. Now I try to be cheeky and give you guys a well, what is it gesture. It's a famous gesture in Dark Souls. I'll get to it later. But I forgot that the well, what is it gesture doesn't become a starting gesture. You have to learn it from an NPC. Now this hallway I just exited, that's the hallway you're supposed to run through for the Asylum Demon, because the Asylum Demon is not a mandatory boss at that first point. He's meant just to scare you, really. Now I'm going to show you the plank shield, and the Demon Great Hammer. That's the weapon I picked up off off the Asylum Demon. And I can't wield it. It requires 40 strength. My character only has 11. If I make my characters get his strength up to around 27, I believe, I'm able to two-hand the weapon. By two-handing a weapon, I actually reduce the strength requirement by 1.5%. Yes, 1.5 times. There you go. I reduced the strength requirement by 1.5 times. Now, you can see I'm not doing damage to this hollow, and he's a starting enemy, and if I couldn't do damage to him, I sure as hell wasn't able to do that much damage against the Asylum Demon. So I just opt out to switch to my club primary weapon. And you can see how the camera kind of jinxed out right here, and it looked pretty cool because it gave me a first-person perspective of Dark Souls, which I've always wanted to see. I've always wanted to see a first-person perspective of Dark Souls. From Software, get to it. Give us a first-person perspective. I'm begging you. Now, that person you just saw in that cell right there, his name is Oscar of Astora. He is a Royal Knight of Astora, and I just opened this door as both a shortcut and for another important matter when we come back to the Asylum, like I mentioned. Now, you're going to be able to read the subtitles. I'm just going to keep talking over Oscar. Now, his shield is actually called the Crest Shield. It's actually a really good shield. It has 100% physical damage deduction. So if I use that shield, if I get hit by a sword, a dagger, whatever weapons, unless they're like really giant and it's a boss weapon, I don't receive any damage because I have 100% physical deduction. Now the Crest Shield has a special bonus where it actually gives you a 85% magic reduction. So it's a really good shield to have if you're going to be doing a bit of a PvP, and some people use faith or magic, and it becomes a pain in the ass. Now, one thing I didn't show you was the hole on the roof. Now, if you guys remember, the Asylum Demon was on the roof, and this guy Oscar, he's the one that lets you out of your cell by dropping a corpse that has the cell key from the roof. So Oscar being on the roof, the Asylum Demon being on the roof, we can infer that Oscar met the Asylum Demon trying to leave the asylum, and the Asylum Demon did its job and knocked this undead back into the asylum floor, injuring Oscar fatally. And you have this little story of Oscar, and it's kind of sad when you get to it. Now, one thing I want to touch up on is, what the hell are we? What is Oscar, and what are these things we're fighting? We are what's called the undead. The undead are just that. We're undead, never dying. Even though the game does focus on you dying a lot and losing your souls, picking them back up, the thing is, when you're undead, you don't really die. You die in the sense that, you know, you lose your souls and you have to race back to pick them up and everything. But the death mechanic isn't death as we know it, as you die, you're done, that's it. No, when you die in Dark Souls, you lose what's called humanity, and humanity is just that. It's what makes us human. It's what makes us sane. It's what makes us who we are. And when we lose too much humanity, we end up just going crazy and become hollow. That is what the fate of the undead are, to lose their humanity and eventually become hollow. Now, the reason I'm showing you this room right here is because you see this little gate here. This is our primary objective when we come back. Remember that. This gate is our objective. And I'll get more into that later when we come back to the asylum. Now, one thing I wanted to show you was to back up my theory, and not my theory, back up what I said earlier about the humanity, is there's a big gaping scar on our chest where a heart's supposed to be. So, you know, a lot of people say heart is what makes us human. We feel, we're emotional, and you lose humanity when you die, so it seems to fit, right? Now, I'm just showing you where the stray demon is and where he lurks, and you'll see why that area is important when we come back to the asylum. Now, I used the big pilgrim key, and I'm just that, I'm on my pilgrimage. And there's not much more here. You're gonna find a soul packet right here behind this wall, and basically, guys, that's the end of the tutorial part of this playthrough. Short, simple, sweet, just introduction to the series. We'll be continuing this series until the end of Dark Souls, and I might be moving on to Dark Souls 2. Not sure if it's going to be the Scholar of the Last Sin, First Sin, or just the regular Dark Souls. So, guys, thank you for staying with me for this long, and I'll see you guys next week.